The Dice Tower is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. And by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff, in stock at CoolStuffInc.com.
The Dice Tower, episode 565.
GenCANT, GenCon 2018!
Welcome to the Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On today's show, we've assembled the whole team to get ready for GenCon. Mandi, Tom, Suzanne, and I will answer some con-related questions from the mailbag, and then we'll share our top 10 games we're looking forward to at GenCon 2018. I'm Eric Summerer, and here's your host, the Lorne Michaels of board gaming, Tom Vassell.
I don't know that I want to be Lorne Michaels. Doesn't he, fire people every year who work for him?
Well, I don't know. He's sort of the lovable curmudgeon that runs the whole thing, but that makes the rest of us the not ready for primetime players, and it also relates to the fact that for some of us it's very, very late in the evening while we're recording this.
And for some of us, it's a lovely hour of the night.
Yeah, okay. Don't rub it in. Not nice.
I miss the opportunity for the four of us to be in the same room where we can just sort of say, hey, let's just meet and do a show. This whole multi-time zone coordination thing is
for the bird.
Stressing me out.
Oh, no, there's just two time zones. Ours and Suzanne.
Thanks for calling that
Eric,
no problem.
I'm confused about Eric saying he misses when we get together in our same room. How often does that happen, Eric?
Not very often, but when it does, I'm really happy about it.
Oh, my goodness. All right, folks, welcome to the show. As Eric said, I'm Tom Vassell, and this is our pre-GenCon 2018 show. So we've done various shows like this in the past, and we're now including Mandi and Suzanne because this is, believe it or not, Suzanne's first GenCon ever.
Yep.
And she has threatened if it does not live up to her expectations, it will be her last.
I have high expectations, y'all, so
Ooh.
Let's make this good.
Well, I'm excited about GenCon for one main reason, because I'm looking at my reviews. I went to game night last night, and I took a pile of what I thought were cool-looking games. So at the end of the night, defeated in despair, playing a fun party game finally, after just bad game after bad game, I was like, where are all the good games? And they're all being released at GenCon.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. So GenCon is not the biggest release fair of the year. That's easily Essen, but GenCon is bigger than Essen. It is. There's more people there, but that's because there's people playing RPGs, there's people there playing collectible card games, there's people who walk around in costumes, there's people there selling and buying games. It is crazy huge. Although I'm going to go out on a limb and say I bet it's smaller than last year. Tiny smaller.
What do you think drives that?
Because last year was the 50th. So it was the big, and they were announcing way ahead of time that it was sold out. They have not announced that this year.
That's true. Although I feel like even last year they had backed off slightly. I think the year before last year they went too big. They sold out later than they, I think, wanted to, and I think they backed off and adjusted the numbers a little bit so it wasn't quite so crowded as it had been the previous year. But I think you're right, Tom. We're not getting the same, oh my goodness, everything's sold out messages that we did last year.
I'm okay with that. I really am.
Yes?
Yeah.
No, it's good. It's better. I was slightly traumatized last year.
Oh, there will still be plenty of people there. I think you'll still get that crush. If you're looking for that massive humanity, you'll definitely get that at GenCon.
Okay, there you go.
Well, Mandi, there goes our plans to do calisthenics in the hallways, I guess.
Oh, yeah, no. That's not going to happen.
Well, again, I always tell people this is one of the untold secrets of GenCon. If the crowds get to you, there is a second floor, and that second floor is never nearly as crowded as the first. Mm-hmm. There's a quiet room up there even that you can go into. There's a painting area. There's a big ballroom up there. Now, that room's packed full of RPG people. But for the most part, if you walk through those halls, it's definitely a lot quieter than downstairs.
But that's primarily if you need a break, right? If you
Right.
actually want to be looking at things, whether it's the cosplayers or the games or whatever, you have to be on the main floor, right?
Actually, I ran into a lot of cosplayers upstairs. I think maybe they need
Yeah.
the break too.
Well,
Like
for sure.
last year, I ran into like all the Disney princesses upstairs, like all of them.
It's true. I think they can take more pictures there. I mean, there's on the lower floor they've set up a designated picture taking cosplay area on the main floor, but I think upstairs they can do a little more wandering around, and they're not blocking traffic quite as much if they do some picture opportunities up there.
So yeah, this is gonna be a fair. I haven't kept track of how many Gen Cons we've gone to. I think this is my 7th now.
Oh, wow.
We have a booth, so we ask you to swing by our booth, come by and say hello to us.
What's the booth number, Tom?
If I was prepared, I would know that.
It's 2835 because, as I figured out, if you multiply by 7, if you multiply 4 and 5, that's how you remember the booth number.
I did
7
say
times
that.
4 and then 7 times 5.
You
It's something that I
remembered.
figured out on my own.
You remembered. You make me so happy. You,
No, yeah,
you
that-
mocked
that was
me when I
Tom's little-
said that.
I did, and now that's the way I remember the booth number. So, yes, Tom's good for something.
Wow, Eric's being snarky today. All right. I hope he has a room at Gen Con. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right, so yes, booth 2835 is where we're at. There's going to be the whole Dice Tower staff there. Me, well, not the whole, but a good chunk of us. Me and Eric and Suzanne and Mandi, Sam and Z, Derek and Kenny, and Mike, and Mike.
I love Mike, and Mike.
I know.
I know, it's like
Great.
it's like a new show.
Totally.
What's he going to make next? That's always my big thing.
Well, I smashed his last thing.
That's true.
Graham Anderson, Rob Searing, Robert Geislinger, Gary Pope, Jason Levine. Yeah, it's going to be a big crowd of people. Very pumped about that. So that's
Not all there at once, by the way.
I was gonna say,
They
how
would not all
big
fit.
is our booth?
Oh, you weren't there last year. Tom, why didn't you tell her about that?
Well, actually, we are working on making it more friendly to fitting in the booth. So we're making a few adjustments to ease up on the size of it. Also, I don't have everyone scheduled in the booth at one time. Oh, my 2 daughters, Melody and Amy Vassal, will be there. If you see Melody, say hi. If you see Amy, pose for a picture. Because she's my official Vassal photographer for this.
Ah.
So we have a booth, but that's not the only booth we have. We also have a table. We'll be out in the main hall for the Jack Vassal Memorial Fund. And that's basically, some people, actually, that jumps into our questions. But someone asked what the Jack Vassal Fund was doing there, and we're just basically raising awareness. There's a lot of events at the con itself that are going to be raising money for the Jack Vassal Memorial Fund. So our booth, you can just come by and say hi and get a flyer for your store or something to promote the Jack Vassal Memorial Fund. So also, it might be a way for you to run into Dice Tower people outside of the exhibit hall in a less crowded area for sure.
That's true. I think, Tom, you've taken the first slot on Thursday at that table versus the Dice Tower booth, right?
Yeah, well, I did that because I like crowds, and that's before the hall opens, so that area there is packed like
Yes, it is.
insanity. So I like crowds the most. So I don't know what it is. The more people around, the happier I am.
All right.
So there's a lot of things going on with Gen Con, but we're just going to jump in because, well, first of all, we need to get Mandi to bed. But we have some questions that I asked people to put up really quickly, and they sent some questions in, and then we'll talk about our top 10 anticipated games of the con. So let's jump into questions.
Tom.
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 Hi, Tom.
How do you pack your hats for safe travel?
If you were stranded on a desert island with one of the aliens from Cosmic Encounter, which one would it be?
Tom, gamers want to know. Is that Eric's real voice?
And now, the Dice Tower will authoritatively, definitely, possibly, maybe, answer your questions.
Tom, which way to the game library?
So James says he's really looking forward to the Hot Games section to help Jen Payne and I plan our attack in the exhibitor hall, but also would like to know what Dice Tower or Jack Vassal Memorial Fund things we should look out for. They already have their tickets to the Friday show in hand.
Well, there's a lot of different events that there's two different charities that GenCon is supporting. One of them is the Jack Vassal Fund. There's different events that you can do. One of the events is Thursday night over in the Union Station. J.R. Honeycutt is running a really big ballroom open gaming type event, so I'll be over at that. Then there's also a guy always makes some big giant thing out of balloons. One year it was a dragon, one year it was Cthulhu, and on Sunday you can go and destroy it for charity. Slay the balloon animal at noon.
Well, one person gets to, I think it's the highest bidder gets to slay the dragon or whatever it is.
Yeah, something like that. So I'll be there for that destruction of whatever it is. And then on Saturday night, Cardhalla gets destroyed. Cardhalla.
Oh, it's great.
So if you don't know what Cardhalla is, at the very front of GenCon, they just have piles and piles of common magic cards and other, useless cards no one uses, and people make these gigantic structures out of them. It's really cool. And then people throw money at it to destroy it on Saturday night.
I didn't realize that that's how they destroyed it. That's pretty darn cool. Now I want to go.
Well, you can.
I always miss the destruction part. I watch it. I usually chronicle it, take pictures for Twitter and stuff, and throw that up on the Dice Tower site as the whole thing grows. And then we're always doing something else Saturday night, and I always miss the destruction. Then I come by on Sunday, and it's just gone.
Yeah,
it's all cleaned up.
You know what it is, Eric? It's because we always eat a dinner at some place that just takes too long, and then we get out too late. That will not happen this year. I'm going. So...
Okay.
And there's also an auction there, and there's some other events, and you can find them on the event thing. Speaking of events, we have the Dice Tower live show. Just a couple hundred tickets left for that. That's Friday at 2 o'clock. So come out and see us live. What are we doing? You'll find out when we get there. But we have a really big announcement we're making. All right. Next question.
Jimmy Hudson is saying, I've been to Gen Con for the last 4 years. I mainly spend time in the vendor hall and playing games. I'm lost when it comes to events. Me too, Jimmy. The list seems so expansive, and honestly, I'm intimidated to check out other stuff. What should I do other than roam the halls for 4 days?
Well, that is that's there really is a ton of events, right? I never worry about that. Let's say I wasn't running the booth and I was just roaming the halls. The exhibit hall takes you at least a day, probably 2. And then if you roam through the big gaming hall, invariably someone's going to ask you to play a game. It's going to happen. I mean, there's that. But you could look at the events. There's some big events to go around and check out. Like there's that giant Robo Rally with the Lego robots. I always get a kick out if I see that.
That's very cool.
And there's other events that you can, like there's the AEG event they run every Friday night, I think, although that may be sold out by now, where people get together and play a bunch of AEG games and get a big box full of games.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Big game night, they call it.
And I already mentioned the Union Station thing, and Board Game Geek runs a room over in the Hyatt Regency, which is where we're staying, and you can go there and pay to just play games with people.
Yes. And another library, there's the Pick Up Play Library, that's been running for several years at GenCon. That's the GenCon library. It's not quite as awesome as, say, the Cabs library at Origins or the Dice Tower Con library, but it's still a pretty extensive list of games and a good opportunity to play. It's sort of the boardroom style thing at GenCon. That's another place to hang out. I used to sign up for that every year until our booth duties sort of became so intense that I would buy the tickets and then not use them. But it was, like you said, Tom, if I didn't have a booth, I'd be spending some time in there.
I would go to the Board Game Geek one. I do think I read somewhere that there's a new open gaming area to play in one of the hotels. I don't remember which one, though, and I don't remember where I read that.
Okay, well, as a newbie, I'm curious, when you start talking about events at different hotels, or there's some stuff in a stadium, right?
Yep.
How do you get around? Is this all a pretty compact area that you can just walk from hotel to the stadium to the convention center, or do you have to plan on taking a lift or cabbing it? How do you get around these different places?
All of these hotels are either attached or very close to the convention center. Anything that has an official event, unless there's some rare thing that I'm not knowing about. But like Lucas Oil Stadium is actually connected to the convention center via a bridge, and
It is,
and a lot of these hotels are connected as well.
you realize, though, it is a walk. So to go, the main convention center has a bunch of there's a big exhibit hall, and around the exhibit hall there's a few smaller rooms, like certain companies. I think Greater Than Games always takes one, where they have a room for Greater Than Games. So some of these publishers, and that's again, if you don't know what to do, you can go into one of these rooms. They're not nearly as crowded. There's the auction, electronic games. There's a lot of things in the main area, but then you can walk to the football stadium, which is where some of the open gaming was last year, which is a really neat thing. I recommend everyone do it. It's a bit of a walk, but there's things to see along the way. True Dungeon's over in the stadium, too. Going to the hotels, there's two big hotels. There's the Hyatt Regency, which is where we stay, and there's a few events that happen there, but most of the events happen at the other hotel. The Grand Westin, is it maybe? I can't remember. It's the one right across the street from the thing. There's a ton of events there. One of my events is in that hotel. Oh, I guess I could just look here, and I would actually know then on the schedule.
A lot of movies get shown in the hotel ballrooms as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's like a whole film festival track. Last year, one of my brother's classmates from USC had released a movie called The Lord of Catan, and it was premiering, or at least as part of the tour at GenCon in their film series. That was pretty cool too.
So then there's other hotels. The Marriott down the street, Fantasy Flight has always taken over that hotel, and there's a lot of stuff there. But again, that's another walk. The convention center is really big. So to walk from, let's say, the Marriott all the way to the stadium, that's probably a 20, maybe 30-minute walk, really, unless you're really booking it. So at least it's not the zoo. But
yes,
I'm
the
never
zoo
going
is
to
a
let
bit of a
that
walk.
go.
And also, the way the convention center is laid out, sometimes walking outside the convention center is better and more direct than walking inside.
But
there's like a weird zigzag pattern to the way it's laid out, and you can't just walk around one edge of the building. You have to go back into the center, and then weird. It's a little strange. Sometimes it's better to go outside.
Deathly hot.
Yes, that's true.
The main thing we'll teach you, Suzanne, is basically how do you get from your room to the exhibit hall. Everything else after that is gravy.
Awesome.
Because we're constantly going there and like, oh, time to take back another load of games. Unless you aren't getting any games, but if so, you're a different person than I've met at other conventions.
Hey now. Moving right along.
Okay, well, Jacob gets right to it. What does each Dice Tower person carry in their go bag at GenCon? What is a go bag?
I think, just our I have a travel bag that I tend to bring to these things, and one, it has the portable recorders that we use for the podcast recording, so that's usually in there, although I don't carry them around every day because they're heavy.
Right.
Eric,
but water.
Let me translate for our dear Canadian friend here.
Yeah.
Mandy, this is what you would call your knapsack.
I knew you were going to bring that up. I knew it. And yes, I would bring my knapsack.
In my rucksack, I carry.
I call them knapsacks.
Thank you.
I have I usually carry a reusable water bottle. Find a place to fill that up because it's definitely one of those things, especially talking in the booth. You want to make sure you have hydration throughout the day. I'll bring a couple of snacks in there, and then I also have inside that bag another smaller bag, so that when I do make a shopping run, I can fit maybe one game in my main bag and then another couple games in the shoulder bag, and now I'm full, and that's my signal to stop buying things until I make a trip back
Eric,
to the room.
that's your signal to buy another bag.
Yeah, exactly. You need what I have. It folds up to the size of a small wallet and opens up to the size of a small suitcase. It's fantastic.
That's dangerous. I have my system. It's my limiting factor, and I have to stick to it, or else bad things will happen.
I carry water, like Eric says. This time I'm gonna be bringing snacks because I don't necessarily always get out for lunch, so like a granola bar and stuff helps out in that regard. I bring Tylenol, always. You never know, especially with the heat and cool changes and just the crowds. Sometimes that headache comes, and I just like having that. A battery for your phone, for sure, because convention centers will always mess with your battery life. It always happens.
Yep.
That's pretty much it. Although, once again, I'll throw my thing, always bring comfortable walking shoes. I don't care how ugly or weird they look, they better be comfortable.
Yeah.
I carry everything that you all mentioned. I think that's a great list. The only thing I think I would add is hand sanitizer.
We'll have some at the booth.
Oh, okay. But, you tend to shake a lot of hands and things like that. And con crud. I got the con crud at Dice Tower Con, and it was a good reminder that it is not fun. And a little bit of hand sanitizer is worth putting in your bag.
Yep. You've seen my bag, Suzanne. I carry a pharmacy in my bag, so
You do.
whatever ails you, I've got a remedy. So I am prepared. I also carry an extra pair of shorts or pants or some clothing in my knapsack. Oh, boy. And, of course, a little bit of makeup. I'm always have to be presentable. And, look, I don't look this way by accident. It takes work. So I definitely have to maintain that if I'm going to be on camera and meeting people. Oh, and, of course, a mint or some gums. Fresh breath is important.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
one.
I always bring those myself. Just for the record, I do look this way by accident.
You wear it with style.
Exactly.
And a quick note regarding the hand sanitizer, though. If we have just met you and shaken your hand at the booth and then we immediately go to the hand sanitizer, it's not anything against you. It's just that we try and do that on a periodic basis. It's
Whatever.
not
It's
you
personal.
personally.
I mean it.
It isn't.
I'm going to look you in the eyes as I slowly rub my hands together.
Oh, no. That's a meme waiting to happen.
All right, Steven says, I'm curious about the relative benefit you get as a podcast company coming to GenCon, Origins, etc. I know it costs you guys a decent amount of money. Oh my, yes. I was looking at the budget today and I almost wept.
Oh.
Is the exposure worth it? Do you get a lot of people stopping by the booth that haven't heard of the podcast before and possibly convert into new listeners? Oh, this is for me, I guess.
Yeah, you're the one that has to answer this one, Tom.
Yes, the exposure's worth it. I mean, if you come by our booth and buy a promo, that also doesn't hurt. We're going to have some new stuff there. We have pins. I think the pins are of Mandi and Suzanne.
Ooh.
What?
Cool. At the booth.
What?
I think. Don't hold me that, but I'm pretty sure.
Get us all excited.
That's what I picked. I also have stickers of Crystal, Ambi, Melody, and Jason.
Awesome.
So anyhow, and then we got a lot of different of our old promos from past Kickstarters and things like that, or Dice Towers and Dice. So that sort of thing helps. But it's not so much that we are looking for new people, although that happens sometimes. People come by because at GenCon we have our mega Dice Tower. Very excited about this. You guys, we haven't brought it out to a convention since last GenCon, I think.
No, I think it's been in storage.
Yeah, well, it's coming back. And so people come by, we let them roll dice and maybe win a prize. And that might get some people in. But for the most part, it's not that we're looking for new listeners. We want to connect with our existing listeners. And that's worth it for all of us, too. It's good for us to hear people say they like our show because the internet often tells us that they don't. Every 3 weeks on Board Game Geek, there's a new thread where someone says, are written reviews dead? And then a whole bunch of people jump in and go, video reviews are dumb. We all love written reviews. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should stop doing video reviews. Going to GenCon is cathartic because people will say, we like your show. And you're like, oh, good. I'm glad someone does. But it also gives you a chance. Maybe you have that question I never answer in my Q&A. Here's your chance to ask it. Things like that. So it's worth it.
Yeah, you can corner him.
Well, I'll run. But
it also provides a good amount of content. I mean, there's a lot of stuff being released at GenCon, a lot of things to see, and so it gives us a lot of things to talk about for the next several months because we're there on the ground. So Bill is asking, for those who've been making the trip for many years, 10, 15, 20-plus years, how do you keep it fresh? What are some of those hidden gems a veteran may be missing?
Well, I don't know. None of us have gone that many times, but I'll say the stadium is only last year was the first year for the stadium, so that's something new. Go look at that. It was. Did you go, Eric, last year?
No, I kept intending to, and then I just never made it out there before it was time to go.
Oh, it's really cool. I mean, it's open at night, too. It's worth walking over there. It's just neat to stand on a football field and see people playing games. And I'm like,
does sound cool.
Nerds have taken over sports. Ha, 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 ha.
Do they really fill the stadium floor?
Yeah, they do.
Booths and tables and stuff like that?
No, it's mostly like tables where people are playing games. Last year there was a museum in the middle, which was really neat. They showed all these old games and letters about the original GenCon and things like that. Expensive magic cards. I don't think that will be there, but there was an open gaming area. There was a tournament area. Maybe they weren't using the whole floor, but they were using a lot of it.
Cool.
And there were people sitting in the stands eating. There was a place where people were eating snacks and stuff.
Speaking of eating, Matt is asking, what is your favorite place to eat at GenCon?
My two favorite places are not in most people's price ranges. I only go there when I can convince someone else to pay for me, and that's St. Elmo's and Oceano's. I love both of those places a lot, but they're very expensive. So let's get out of that price range.
Well, because this isn't like Origins. This was also my
it's
first
not.
Origins, and everybody's talking about, there's so much great food, and sure enough, we go to Origins, and there's a really nice array of food within walking distance of the convention center. But I don't hear the same thing about GenCon.
No.
Well, that's because it's true. Now, GenCon does bring in a huge amount of food trucks. So they're good, but they're very crowded, and if you want to go to them at any reasonable time, you want to go off hours.
Yes, eat lunch at 11 or something like that.
Okay.
There are some other decent little places around. The Ram is obviously the one everyone wants to go to, but that's the one everyone does go to. We always go to the Ram on Tuesday because, well, that's the one day it's not crowded.
Yes.
But there's a lot of different places around. There's several of these different restaurants there. I would recommend maybe Rathskeller's, which is a German restaurant. So you have to Uber to get there, but it's not crowded because of that. If you're willing to walk a couple blocks, you can get to restaurants. Like we walked a couple blocks last year and went to a Jimmy John's, and we were able to get a whole pile of sandwiches there pretty quickly. Remember that, Eric?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I had a whole box of sandwiches.
If you're willing to walk to, what is it, Monument Circle? Is the big iconic circle with the monument in the middle.
Get some soda?
Yes. Well, there's Rocket Fizz is the name of the soda shop. That you can't really make that your dinner, but it is. They do have candy.
You?
You could make that your dinner.
If you're eating candy and soda for dinner, that's not a good start.
If you're willing to walk that far, though, there are a lot of sandwich shops and smaller restaurants that are still welcoming to the GenCon crowd, but won't be quite as crazy as the stuff that's right within a block or two of the convention center.
Well, there you go. There's also a mall that's connected to the convention center. A lot of people miss this. But there's a 4-story mall that's connected, and you don't notice it because it's an indoor mall. It's like in the middle of a city block. And in that mall is a food court, and that food court I never found to be overly crowded.
No, we've eaten there a couple times when we couldn't find anywhere else to go. That was the place to go, and we got fast food and a lovely meal that we didn't have to wait an hour for.
Yeah.
All right, well, here's a interesting question. Any hints for Dice Tower's big GenCon reveal? And this is asked by Seth.
Yeah, no. I've already given out way too many hints in other things that I've said to the point where someone emailed me and guessed it right on the nose.
Oh, wow.
And I was
really?
like, okay, well, no more hints. Also, I'm always afraid now that we play these things up to be too big. It's really huge. No, but it is a pretty big announcement for us. I'm excited about it. And one of us probably more excited than the rest. But anyway, that's not the point. Let's move on.
Before we move on to our top 10, though, I did have I wanted to ask about the dice towers. You said we'd have those at the booth. Do we have the new design dice towers?
No, because we haven't sent them out for the Kickstarter yet.
Okay.
We have our older ones there. We'll have the newer ones in the future. But we do have a couple other questions that I didn't put on the document here. that I just found on Facebook. One is there a financial benefit to buying games there, or is it just an opportunity to buy the new hotness?
Ooh. Well, I mean, as a Canadian, it would really have to be you can't get it anywhere else. Like, oh, it's here, and I'm going to have to wait 6 months to get it. Other than that, for us, it's really expensive.
I mean, there are places that are selling games that are a year, 2, 3 years back, and do have discount prices. There's always that booth that liquidates the Rio Grande stuff that sells them for really surprising.
I always feel
prices.
like I'm breaking the law by shopping at that place. Because this guy stands there and he's shouting, "Get 3 Rio Grande games for $15." You're like, is this legal?
Do you actually work here?
Cool Stuff also sells a ton of games for an inexpensive price. There's a lot of cheap games, but the new games, you're paying full price for them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're paying for the ability to get them immediately, especially the releases that sometimes don't hit the street for another month or two. You may get a chance to get some of these if you run to the booth and make that purchase.
Oh, yeah. Running for the booths. What do you predict will be the game most run for?
Ooh. No.
The only one that I know is super limited is Trade on the Tigris, but I haven't been paying that much attention.
I don't think people are going to run for that one, per se.
Yeah.
I wonder if Plan B is going to be Swarm just because, they were at Origins. Yeah, well, maybe we'll talk about this as we go through our top 10 and point out some of the games there. You know what? Let's do that now.
It's a Dice Tower Top 10!
The Dice Tower's Top 10 list is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff Inc. Cool stuff in stock at coolstuffinc.com.
All right, before we jump into the top 10, I should mention that for me personally on my list, I've only put games I haven't played. I played a lot of games that are coming out, and I'll have a video up about that on the channel if you want to see games that I think you should check out that I love. And I might mention them when the other folks here, if they mention some of them are on their list, so I'll mention those too. But yeah, that's just a personal thing I put on myself to not insist everyone follow that. I'm also only picking games that are available because honestly, there's so many games here that I didn't need to pick ones that were demoed.
Yeah, I thought I was doing that, but then I was told that one of them is not going to be available. But that's okay. I want to talk about it anyway.
Yes, I'm right there with you, Eric, so don't worry. We're in good company.
I will say this. I'm so happy. I looked at this list, and it was so easy to make a top 10. I could have made probably a top 50.
Really?
There's a lot of cool-looking games. Yes, you are just being picky. That's all there is to it.
I struggled.
A top 50, huh?
Wow.
Oh, all right.
There are so many cool-looking games coming out. Like, I mean, you guys put all kinds of games in your list that I didn't put on mine, and I think they're good choices. I'm only going to mock one of them.
And I bet you it's on mine, I guarantee you.
Who will it be? Who will it be?
It's not on your list, Mandy or Suzanne.
Oh.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Excellent.
I wonder whose.
Yeah, I could have done like a top 20. There were there's some on, I was glad when I peeked over at a couple of your lists because there's definitely things on your list that just didn't make the cut for mine. So I'm glad to see that one of y'all are going to be talking about it.
Yeah. I had maybe 3 that were like must-gets. My top 3 was very easy, but then with all of the next tier down, trying to pick the remaining 7 out of that grouping was very tough. There's a lot of games to be excited about.
Let's get started.
Number 10.
My number 10 is a release from Pegasus Spiele called Gamer Over. It is
Murderer!
It is a role-playing style game that is set at a game convention. A popular video blogger has been killed. And
this is so on the nose. I don't like this theme.
And I don't know how this game plays. I don't know anything about the mechanisms, but the theme has sucked me in. I know that there is a card in there that is Z Healy. I don't know what he does, but he's in there.
Wait, is there?
I have
really?
to know more about Gamer Over. It's my number 10.
That's funny.
Wait, did I know this? I can't remember now. Wait, man. Well, anyway, we're going to skip my number 10 because it's on someone else's list later.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So, do you you want me to jump into mine? All right. My number 10 is Tyler Sigmund's Crows. So I was initially...
I have no idea. What is this game?
I just looked at it. I'm like, ooh, it looks dark and it's bloody. Okay, let's look at it. So it's a...
Okay.
Well, I like the dark stuff. So competitive. It's a competitive tile placement game. I don't know too much about it, but it looks interesting. And apparently in the game, you are trying to entice crows to flock to your shiny totem. And this apparently could potentially create murders of crows, which have them dispersed through a changing map in the game. Yeah, apparently it's some tense gameplay, looks dark and creepy. Tyler Sigmund's Crows, looks fun.
So is it one of those things where it's just really crows and they just stuck his name really big on the box?
No, it's actually...
No, I'm serious.
It's
This automatically makes me dislike a game sometimes when I see the person's name and like, you're so arrogant, you put your name in the title.
I will admit... The title, I don't love that either. I will have to agree with you on that point, but the art was kind of cute. And,
Andy, don't agree with him.
well,
It's a trap.
I do agree with him. I'm sorry, but when you put your name, it's true. I kind of agree on that point. But the game itself looks cute-ish.
Okay.
Those cute crows.
That's cool.
They're adorable.
The bloody
crows
dark cute clothes.
Those murders. Eee.
My number 10, well, I'm just going to have to ride the conduit because it's up on somebody else's list.
Oh.
Number 9.
So number 9 for me, I will be one of those looking forward to the Tasty Minstrel booth and Trade on the Tigress. This is a design from Jeff Engelstein and Ryan Sturm. They began designing this years ago on the Ludology podcast, just sort of as a brainstorming design experiment, and it's finally seeing the light of day as Trade on the Tigress. I again, don't know much about it, but I want to see what the final product looks like, and I'm excited for Jeff and for Ryan. Trade on the Tigress, my number 9.
All right, this is the game I have a problem with.
Okay.
Shocking.
No, because this game exists as like a dig at me. It's just weird, right? Because
Not a dig. It's inspired by you.
Yeah, I think it's
the game was
grown beyond
originally
that.
called Trading in the Mediterranean. Because they were like, well, Tom always says these games are tired and boring. Can we make a good game around this subject? And I was like, sure, but why? That's my whole point. Stop using this theme. And the problem is, I really like Jeff, so I can't talk too bad about this. But still, I will play this game knowing I won't like it. Maybe I will. We'll find out.
You never. They're hoping they were hoping to make a game that would transcend the theme and still be strong enough that you would enjoy it.
No, I know that. I think the premise for designing it was flawed. I'm not really sure. I don't know. It just bugs me.
It's grown beyond you, Tom. It's not even about you anymore. Just it's
All right,
own
now I'm
thing.
going to put a game that for some reason Mandy didn't put on her list, even though she said she likes heavier games, and that's Yellow and Yangtze.
Okay, wait, though. Before you start, I went through a list, and I swear half the games that I'm seeing on yours were not on this list.
All right, well, Yellow and Yangtze is the direct sequel to Tigris and Euphrates from Rainer Knizia. So, Tigris and Euphrates, a classic game that he's designed that I have loved and hated at different times in my life. This one is something new, except it's hexes instead of squares, and it's 5 liters instead of 4. But there's other changes I think that they made to it. It has Vincent Dutrait artwork. It looks really good. This is from Grail Games. I'm very impressed with how this looks, and this is the first big game that Knizia has done in, who knows, like a decade, I think.
Oh.
It looks gorgeous. I always thought Tigris and Euphrates, while there's very few rules in the game, is a fairly in-depth game, right? How you would say Go only has a few rules, but there's a lot going on. Tigris and Euphrates is that same way to me. Mm-hmm. And this game looks like it's even a little bit more than that, maybe? I don't know. I'm pretty pumped about this.
Oh. Would you say,
Indeed.
like, medium-heavy?
You mean for Tigris and Euphrates?
No, for this one, Yellow and Yangtze.
Well, I'm assuming it's the same as Tigris and Euphrates in weight.
Okay.
That's what I would guess.
Okay. My number 9. Well, this will be close to home for Suzanne. Downforce Danger Circuit. So,
I'm saying nothing.
Well, I threw it on there because I didn't think I would like Downforce. It's not the type of game I'd usually gravitate toward, but I had a great time playing it. So this is the expansion to Downforce. And if you're not familiar with Downforce, it's a racing game. There's some betting and auction that happens. And in Downforce Danger, I know that they add a different game board, which gives you new racetracks. And I think there's some crossover loops, danger spaces, split areas of the track. So just it makes it a little bit more interesting. And this is published by Restoration Games. So I'm actually looking forward to trying this one out.
Yeah, that loop thing is cool.
I know somebody who can teach you.
Well, I think by the time this episode goes, I think our review of this will go up. I'm having Melody review this one because she likes it so much. She keeps going and teaching it to people.
Oh, Melody likes it? Oh,
So-
that means I'll probably like it because I like her choices in games.
A lot of people do.
She's your daughter. My number 9 is Maiden's Quest. This is coming out from WizKids Game, and it's technically a cooperative game, but I'm actually most fascinated and interested in it. It made my tops list because it's supposed to play really well solo, where you can have a variety of maidens that you take on, and they have unique characteristics, etc. And you go through like a challenge deck. But it uses multi-use cards, so each card can be turned and flipped, and they can represent different elements, like the same card can be an encounter or an ally or an item, things like that. It's also designed to play without a tabletop. So this is a game that you should be able to put in your hand, and just kind of the way the card mechanisms work, you can just play it out of your hand standing up. So you could, I imagine this is something I could toss into my pocket or my purse, and when I'm standing in line or waiting for a movie, I've got a game on me that I can flip through, and I think that sounds really cool. So that is Maiden's Quest from WizKids Games.
This one made my short list, I think, solely because of the cover illustration. It's a stereotypical princess, like drop-kicking an invader on a castle rampart or something like that. It looks interesting, so I'm pleasantly surprised to see it on your list.
I was gifted this at Dice Tower Con, actually.
Really?
Someone was very nice and purchased it for me and said, we think you should really try this. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet because I have a bit of a pile I'm going through right now, but there you go. Maybe I can push it forward and get it played. I don't play solo, though, so I'm hoping it plays well with more players.
Cooperative.
Yeah.
There you go.
Number 8.
Number 8 is a new Restoration Games title. I know they've gotten all sorts of hype over that Island Volcar thing going on, but this is a revamp of a deduction game called, I believe, Who's It? It's a game where you're trying to find the identity of different dinosaurs. It seems a little Guess Who-y to me, and that's always a game I've appreciated, and to see a gamer version of that has me excited. And I also love the illustrations and sort of the wit and charm of this, the approach of these high society dinosaurs having a tea party. It looks like fun, and I will be seeking it out. Number 8, Dinosaur Tea Party.
All right, my number 8 is a reprint of an older game, and this one's on here because I'm feeling a little evil, and that's called True Colors. So, any of you played True Colors?
No.
I looked at this in the list, and I just skipped. I said True Colors. I skipped right past it.
Yeah, no, I've not played it myself either.
All right, so this game is probably not the best game to play, but I don't know why I like it so much. Essentially, we're all sitting around a table, and we're all assigned a different color. And you have voting cards for every other player color. So we'll turn over a card that says, who's the most fun person, or who's the life of a party? And then we'll vote and put cards in this box in the middle of the table. So if I think it's Eric for sure, I would put 2 Eric cards in there. If I thought, sometimes it's Eric, sometimes it's Mandi, I'd put 1 card for each of them in. And then after all these cards are put in, you guess how many you've gotten. So you're going to guess, do I have the most? Did I get none? Or do I have, not the most nor none, but some? And if you guess correctly, you get points. So it's a funny game in that regard. It's fun. It's just not always fun because the question might be like, who's the biggest slob? And then, when you look and you see all your color, you're not necessarily thrilled. Or even it might say, like, who's the life of a party? And you're like, oh, yeah, probably me. And then none of your colors in the box. And you're like, oh, I see how you guys feel, jerks. So it could be an unfun game if you take it too seriously, or now you know what your friends really feel.
Right.
I guess this game doesn't bother me as much because most of my friends just tell me how they feel to my face. So I'm already traumatized in real life, and therefore this game doesn't bother me. I don't think I sold this game at all.
No, you didn't actually. Not one iota.
True Colors from Games Adults Play, a new company, I think.
So my number 8 is Morn Quest. So Morn Quest, I instantly looked at this and I said, ooh, it says something about banishing nightmares. This sounds like it could be fun. It's a cooperative board game, and it's based on some novels by an Irish author. I'm not sure if Eric might be familiar with this author, Gary McKelleran, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. No? Okay. So I thought, okay, this could be interesting, but you're trying to battle and banish nightmares and save a kingdom. I think it's Morn. And basically gathering powers from the land and granite and all sorts of things that the earth provides. And and along the way you meet some fairies and folk and dark forests and marshlands and all sorts of things that try and block your path, to saving the kingdom. So Morn Quest, cooperative, and it's published by Backspindle Games Limited.
My number 8 is Fortune City. This is a game designed by the designer of games like Flip City and Dairyman, and a really great trick-taking game called Pai Ma. And this is actually a board game based on an app. And the app, it's a game, but it's kind of not. So this is one of these apps, and it gamifies expense tracking. You can actually enter your real expenses in this app, and then you build this little city based on your app activities and what you spend money on and how you categorize them in this app. Well, they went and made a board game out of it, and I think that that's fascinating. Obviously, I have a lot of interest in app games in general, and then to see kind of how this cycle of analog to digital back to analog is going is really fascinating to me. The art is super cute. It's cute in the app. It's cute on the board game. And I really like games like Dairyman and Harvest Island that this is the design that also did this design. So I'm looking forward to checking out Fortune City.
Number 7.
My number 7 is Choose Your Own Adventure, The House of Danger. This is a new one from
it's so good.
Z-Man Games. We talk about a lot of these escape room style games, time stories, as a Choose Your Own Adventure style game. This one is actually Choose Your Own Adventure. My kids have recently discovered the Choose Your Own Adventure series and have been enjoying those style of books. And so this is an automatic get for me to bring this home and try it out. And based on Tom's exclamations, maybe it's a good one. I had known nothing about how it plays, but I'm excited to explore the Choose Your Own Adventure game. It's my number 7.
It actually, you played Legacy of Dragonholt, right?
No.
Okay, so never mind then. It plays just like the book, Eric. You go through these pages, they're cards, and you go through them, and you'll get to different choices, and then whoever's turn it is makes the choice which way to go, and then more things will happen. But you can also pick up items, and later on it might say, do you have a certain item? Or sometimes you need to make a roll of a die, and you succeed or fail, with different things thrown in. But it's very, very simple, and it's something I think that you could play with your kids, and they would love, because it is cheesy as all get out. And insane story. I really liked it. When we played it, we were playing an early copy of it, and I said, all right, we're going to play just the first chapter, because there's 5 chapters. We played through it, and I said, we should check out the second chapter, because I don't think playing the first chapter gave me a good feel for the game. And then we played the entire game. Also, there's different endings you can get. So our ending was a bittersweet ending, and I was like, well, maybe I'm thinking about going back and playing through the whole thing again to see if I can get a better ending. I really like it.
Okay.
If you like the books, you'll like the game.
Awesome.
Cool.
My number 7 is Horizons, which I just like because of how cool it looks. This is from Daily Magic Games, and they make stuff that looks great anyway. This is a space, not a 4X game, but you're building a tableau of cards in front of you. You get 2 actions on your turn. And I I like the idea of this one a lot. I like the 2 actions. I like the Daily Magic tends to make really good stuff, and it has that Race for the Galaxy feel to it, and that's a genre I like a lot. So Horizons.
My number 7 is actually one of the ones that are not available to purchase, but you can demo, is Dinosaur Island, Totally Liquid. So this was a Kickstarter. This is the expansion. So if you have Dinosaur Island, this would be an expansion that you can get. The art is beautiful, and it's done by Kwanchai Moria, who I love. And this one basically adds some components needed to play the base Dinosaur Island with 5 players, and I think they add water dinosaurs, they add parkboard extensions, meeples, more dinosaur actual figurines, all sorts of things to kind of amp up the game. So if you really enjoy Dinosaur Island, I think this is just going to get that extra kick to it. So unfortunately, it's not for sale, but you can definitely try it out. I know, I'm so sad. It looks gorgeous. And this is published by Pandasaurus Games. So I'm at least excited to try it because I did back this one. So I'd like to give it a go.
Tom, I'm realizing that both you and I missed a huge opportunity with my number 7 pick. We should have made it our number 9 pick.
I refuse to fall into such petty, nonsensical traps.
Unless it happens by accident.
Yes.
My number 7 is Tom's number 10, and this is Symphony number 9.
Bum, 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 bum.
Absolutely. This is being published by Mo Ideas out of Taiwan. And Mo Ideas is a publisher I just watch. They published Mini Rails by Mark Garrett's, which is one of my all-time favorite games. I just love it for a little simple but deep train and stock game. They also did a game called Tulip Bubble that, besides being gorgeous, was another really fun stock manipulation game. And here we have Symphony number 9. One, I love the theme. It's just about being a patron of a symphony and ultimately becoming the most prosperous patron. And I just think that that's a fabulous theme in general. There's actions, there's cubes that are going on and off tracks, and that you're increasing and decreasing the reputation of musicians that change what you can do and change your strength of your abilities and things like that. And ultimately, though, it really is kind of an economic game, and I know that I like Mo Ideas' economic games in general, so Symphony number 9 had to hit my tops list. I'm really excited. In fact, I've pre-ordered it.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped about this one because I think there's so few games about music. Mm-hmm. I was saying this on our video show. I don't get this. I don't get why there's like 100 games about artists, Michelangelo and Raphael and all those nonsensical guys, when there's music. Music's changed my life. Michelangelo's done nothing for me. Beethoven and Bach have done many things. I'm being a little bit but
Hyperbolic.
seriously,
Hyperbolic.
Yeah, I know the word. Okay. But seriously though, I like music, and I don't understand why there's not more games about it. Music is like one of the biggest things in so many people's lives. Okay, anyway, that's a rant for another day. But just Symphony number 9 is about music. Bam, it was on my list because of that.
Yeah, is it specifically about Beethoven, or are you working with multiple composers?
I think you're like being a patron of multiple musical artists.
Oh, nice.
Cool. I should really be paying more attention to this one. I sort of passed it over, but you've both piqued my interest.
Number 6.
Number 6 is my demo-only selection, but I didn't know this game existed till about 2 days ago, and that is a new edition, a revised edition of Emerson Matsuuchi's Volt. This was, his second design. He self-published it for Nazca Games, and it was a really neat, innovative robot programming game that used dice to program your actions and where you shot and different strengths and ranges of your weapons. And this new version from Heidelbar, which is a publisher I am not aware of, but they'll be there showing the thing off. This new one says they streamline some of those things, making it easier to figure out your actions. Some of the more confusing aspects of the original version have been smoothed out. I just want to see how this whole thing works. I'm psyched for Volt 2nd Edition, my number 6.
This one is Volt First Edition is still on my game shelf. I love original Volt, and I love programming games. if I did pick up that it was a demo, if this was available for purchase, this definitely would have been on my tops list.
Yeah, I really like the first version too. So I just think it's neat that Heidelbar is coming to the convention. I believe this is the first time that they've shown up like this. My number 6 is the third in a trilogy from Uwe Rosenberg, Spring Meadow, after Autumn, Indian Summer, and Cottage Garden.
Yes.
This is the third one. It looks like it's a mix between the previous two. How many Tile Lane games can Mr. Rosenberg make? The answer is, I believe this is his 6th. But, hey, I'm willing to try another one, and I like how pretty these games look. So, number 6, Spring Meadow from Stronghold Games.
My number 6 is Railroad Inc., and it's published by Simon Limited and Horrible Games. And I saw this, I'm like, oh, it looks like a roll and write. We need one of those on the list. And it's a multiplayer, it's a puzzle type game, and you're trying to connect as many exits on your board as possible. So, like you roll and write, you roll some dice, and then you determine which kinds of roads and railway routes you'd like to take or draw in. So apparently this comes in 2 versions. I'm not 100% familiar with it. It just looked interesting. But it comes in 2 versions, and it includes a couple of expansions and additional dice and new rules in order to play the game. So this is Railroad Inc.
And my number 6 is a game called Expand City. Expand City.
Sounds right.
Expansity.
Yeah, there you go.
Expansity. Okay. This is being published by Breaking Games, and I actually saw an early version of this, like a prototype version of this, at Gamma Trade Show 2 years ago.
Wow.
I think. It's been a while, but it caught my eye back then, and I've kind of been keeping a watch out for it. Well, it's finally here. It's finally available at this GenCon. This is a city building game. And to be honest, it looks like a very straightforward city building game. But I like straightforward city building games. The cover art on it is really cool looking. It's got this, it makes it look like you're looking top down on a city, and it's got this weird dimensionality. It's really cool 3D effect. And that's thematic because in this game, you're going to be actually physically building up a city. It's got stackable blocks that represent your different buildings that you get to build up. And it's similar to Manhattan and things like that. And I love Manhattan. I love that dimensional play. I love city builders. And this has that kind of puzzly play where you're going to be placing buildings, and they score differently depending on what they're close to, like banks or schools or parks and things like that. So Expansity, it looks like a pretty straightforward city builder with some really great production quality, and I'm looking forward to checking that one out.
Noting that this is the second city building game on your list, Suzanne, I'm sensing a theme.
Hush now.
Number 5.
My number 5, Tom was so excited to talk about that he just plowed right through and said all the things I was going to say.
It wasn't in italics. I didn't notice.
Sure. And who does the italic? Anyway, so it's...
Well, someone else this time. It wasn't me. Someone else did it earlier.
It's Yellow and Yangtze, the Reiner Knizia game from Grail Games. You take Tigris and Euphrates and turn them into hexes, add an additional leader type. I don't know if they've made any changes to the battle system, the internal versus external conflict. I don't know yet, but a revision of Tigris and Euphrates is very exciting, and I can't wait to see how it all works. Number 5, Yellow and Yangtze.
Well, my number 5, I'm really surprised on this one. I'm surprised that no one else has this one on their list, actually, and that is
so close for me.
It's Guncamino. I'm not sure the actual pronunciation, but this is a reprint, or I'm not a reprint. It's a reworking of Heartlands. This is a game that when I originally played it, it's a farming game, and I was like, that game looks boring as all get out. And then I played it, and I was like, this is amazing. It's a tile placement game where you're building farms, and it's so mean and so vicious, and building areas, and it's mean. If I don't mention it's mean, but the front of the cover like shows a guy in a tractor, and you're like, oh, I don't want to play that. Well, they've rethemed it and reworked it too, so it's a newer game with samurai theming and all that. Oh, I'm so pumped about this one. Yeah, it's great. I'm looking forward to this one. It's from Renegade Games.
Yeah, I actually got to play Heartland with Renegade Games a couple of years ago, and similar to you, it's a mean game. It was a lot of fun, and one of the things I really liked about it is that it's 3-dimensional. You're stacking tiles, and it's you're kind of area control, but you can place tiles on top of other tiles, and I always love that mechanism in games.
My number 5 is Thornwatch, and this is published by Lone Shark Games. So Thornwatch was new to me, but I had an interview not that long ago at Origins with Lone Shark Games, and it caught my interest. So it's a graphic novel adventure game, and like some of the other games like Apocrypha and that sort of thing, it happens in its kind of own world. And basically you're summoned to this tree, and the people that are summoned to this tree, they don't know each other, the true nature of the problem that they're trying to solve. So you're working together to try and get this mystery solved. So players have a custom dice and custom mats, and it's like similar to their other games where you have abilities that are customized to your player. So that is Thornwatch. I'm not familiar with the graphic novel adventure, but I love the art, and it just sounded really interesting. I'm a little concerned about what I'm seeing online about it, though.
I backed Thornwatch, so I have the copy waiting. I had intended to play it with my kids. My reservation is that the theme is a little darker than what I was necessarily hoping for. I was identifying with the lookouts, the young children in the game. This is based on Penny Arcade's sort of offshoot. Every once in a while they take a break from their regular series and do these Ironwood adventure offshoots with the lookouts and the Thornwatch and stuff like that. And so I was excited, and I'm still embracing the theme. It's just I'm hesitating bringing it out for the kids because there's some, like sort of demonic creatures and stuff that are the bad guys here, and I'm worried that it might be a little dark for them. But mechanically, I think they'll be good with it.
Oh, for sure. But if it's on my list, guaranteed it's dark.
My number 5 is higher on somebody else's list, but it's pretty epic, so it'll be worth the wait.
Woo! Wonder whose list.
Spoiler alert.
Number 4.
My number 4 still holds on to Tom's rule as a game that I have not yet fully played because he ripped it out of my hands while I was in the middle of the game.
Oh, let it go.
We talked about it last week. It's Root, the asymmetrical adventure game that I just fell in love with. The illustration style is so cool, and the different players with their varying powers. And yeah, I'm going to be hovering over the Leader Games booth pretty early on. Number 4, Root.
Yeah, this is a great game. Did make my list only because I've already played it.
Yep. Speaking of your list.
Oh, sorry. My number 4 has already been on someone else's list, and yet it's still on someone else's. We're going to go higher and higher.
Really? Oh, yeah, okay, there it is. All right. Wow, jumped right over to me. Okay, so, sorry, I wasn't ready. So my number 4, oh wow, I'm tired. My number 4 is Sorcerer. This is published by White Wizard Games. So this one I actually don't know a ton about, but it looks so pretty, and I really enjoy their game. So I'm like, let's give it a gander. So this game, you have ancient beings who have powers, and you're basically going head-to-head against each other and trying to determine which of their lineage is the strongest. That is the gist of the game. So, like a lot of their other games, you're using sorcery, you're conjuring minions, casting minions, spells and items and things like that. So, deck builder type game. This is very common for White Wizard. I'm excited to try it. That is Sorcerer.
Mandy, I've played this.
Oh.
And I think you'll really like
Excellent.
it. The action point management, and there's a ton of variety in how you can build out the decks and how you mix and match. I think you're going to love this one. And it's got kind of a darker theme to it.
I sense a theme in
right
my
up your
list, so
alley.
this is right up my alley. And I know I'm going to get emails about, Mandy, but you don't like deck builders. Well, I feel like deck builders, they're stepping up, raising the bar a little bit, so I feel this could be a good one.
My number 4 is Carson City, the card game. I had no idea this was in development, and as soon as I saw it on the list, I knew I had to put it somewhere in my top 10, and here we are. It's a card version of a really well-liked worker placement game, essentially. But here they've taken that theme and that setting and redone it into a card game. I don't know a ton about it. I admit I was drawn in by the brand. But it looks like the next thing that really sold it as I was looking is it's got a trick-taking element to it. So it looks like you've got these cards that represent a plot of land, and they have different icons on them that probably represent different buildings and things like that. And you're going to be laying these cards kind of like tiles and building out your city, your Carson City. But to get these cards, it looks like you get to do some form of trick-taking, and I love trick-taking games. So I'm really excited about Carson City, the card game.
Oh, I too love a good trick-taking game. I would not have thought that by just listening to the title, or I never would have thought that. So, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Also, yet another city building game on Suzanne's list.
We like theme. What can we say?
Number 3.
Speaking of theme, I get the theme of winning on this one. It showed up on Tom's list at number 4 and Suzanne's list at number 10. This is the completion of the Matt Leacock Forbidden Trilogy, unless he makes another one, and that's Forbidden Sky. This is from GameRight. It has these cool physical bits where you're making physical connections, like electrical connections almost. I don't know much else about the gameplay here, but I mean, the pedigree is so strong between Forbidden Island and Forbidden Desert. Forbidden Sky is a must-purchase for me. I will be returning with this in my greedy little hands, unless I don't get in line fast enough. I'm excited. I'm also interested to see the reaction to a cardboard box as opposed to the tin that the last two games were in. I think that's great. It's going to fit on my shelf better, but others are complaining that they miss the tin, that they want it to all match.
No one is complaining that. No one is complaining about it.
I've seen complaints. They're like, I wish that it was in a tin to match the other game box.
That's insanity. Stop saying such nonsense, everybody.
Anyway, number 3, Forbidden Sky.
Tins are dead. Long live boxes. My number 3 is I don't understand, Mandy says she likes heavier games, and yet she didn't even look at this
There's
one.
a reason for this, though. I'll wait till you finish.
All right. Founders of Gloomhaven. Now, to be clear, this is not on my list because it has the word Gloomhaven in it. Because it's really nothing like Gloomhaven. It's a big, puzzly Euro-style game in which you are building a city. But from what I understand, it's more about getting a puzzle and type thing to work. Now, reactions on this have been fairly mixed, the different things I've read on it. But I'm still pretty pumped because, I don't know, I'm in the mood for a big, puzzly city Euro-style game. I'm hoping I like it.
Yeah, the Euro part, I'm like, yes, that's calling my name. Absolutely. I had this actually start on Kickstarter. And then I started talking to a few friends who generally like the same types of games that I do. And I had been hearing that it was like everything was just thrown in there. Like there was no edit. It was like throw this in, throw this in, throw this in. It was just a lot going on for like little reward.
Huh. Well, the reason why this didn't make my list is I backed it. And so I'm not anticipating it because I know I'm already going to be getting it. Otherwise, it probably would have hit my list.
I thought it was an expansion to Gloomhaven, and I ignored it.
That is the best answer
gosh, that's
ever.
So classic.
I love it. All right. Oh, on that note, my number 3 is Wendake, and this is getting back into my realm of games. Is a worker placement type game, and this is published by Renegade Games. So this, I believe, was on Kickstarter. And in this game, you are placed as the chief of a Native American tribe, and you are trying to manage the aspects of their lives, earning points in the economic, military, ritual, and these different tracks that they have in the game. I believe the core mechanic is action selection, and you have the opportunity to choose better actions over time. So over the game rounds, I think there are 7. And the winner is the person who can find the best combination of actions and lead your tribe to prosperity. This sounds like my type of game. Can't wait to play it. Wendake.
This game is very fun.
You've played it?
Yeah, I played the original Kickstarter version from the original publisher.
Right.
It has this sort of tic-tac-toe action selection board, and as you choose the actions on here, they flip over and they become unavailable until they slide off and reset in future future rounds. And there's this sort of not deck building, but tableau building aspect where you replace the old tiles with new, more powerful tiles. It's neat, mechanically very, very strong and unique. I really enjoyed it, and I'm happy to see that it's getting a wider release.
Oh, fantastic. I can't wait to try this out.
For me, number 3, Mandi, you might want to pay attention to this one because it's another I was surprised didn't make your list.
Okay, listen, I swear I was working off a different list. Half of these things were not on my list.
Well, check this one out for sure because I think you'll like it. It's Mercado, and this is being published by Cosmos and then White Goblin Games, and it is designed, I mean, the cover has this big metal cup on it, whatever. But then I saw the name on the cover, and they got me. It's designed by Rudiger Dorn, who is one of my favorite board game designers. And then as I was looking at it, it's thematically you're a rich merchant and you're just trying to buy stuff, essentially, as far as I can tell. You're going to market stalls and you're trying to just get lots of fancy things. But mechanically, it looks like it has shades of Keyflower, Istanbul, and even a game called Spirium, where you've got these tiles laid out and you're putting coins out between them. You're drawing coins from a bag. There are counterfeit coins that can kind of throw a wrench in things. There are charms or tokens that let you impact how you draw and things like that. A lot going on, but with Rudiger Dorn and kind of some of the little mechanical things around how you get you claim these tiles and stuff, it looks awesome. I'm really excited for this one, and that is Mercado.
I don't know. What's the weight of this one?
I didn't write down like the BGG weight, but I mean, I'm sure. I mean, it's Rudiger Dorn. I mean, I think it's probably in the zone of Istanbul, is what I'm.
Okay, some lighter end. I'm always weary of tile laying games. I'm like, how's that going to go? But it has some other interesting elements, so I will entertain it while I'm there.
Oh, how kind of you!
Yay!
Number 2.
My number 2, I have played, but it's on the list because I must bring it back to bring to the family and show my wife. That's Gizmos, the new one from CMON. It has a hopper with marbles in it. You're drawing the marbles and building machines that then cascade and trigger when you do other actions, and it's super fun. And I can't wait to bring it home. Gizmos, number 2.
I have this game. I love this game. I teach it to people. They love this game because people automatically think it's Potion Explosion Part 2. It is not. So much fun. I really enjoy this one.
My number 2 is Tower of Madness from Smirk and Daggers. This is Cthulhu Kerplunk. That's really what it is.
Yep.
It has a bunch of tentacles stuck into this Kerplunk type tower, and you pull them out and marbles fall down, but you want marbles to fall down, but not the madness marbles. So there's some strategy in which sticks you're pulling out because you're trying to get different marbles to fall down to the bottom, and there's a little bit more of a game there. I don't know. I've always liked Kerplunk. I mean, it's not a very good game, but this looks like it adds some game to it, and it has some pretty cool tentacle sticks that you pull out, too. I don't know. Maybe this will be a big bust for me, but so far, I'm liking the idea of Tower of Madness.
My number 2, I've seen people with it, so I didn't know it had been out in the wild, is Lowlands, which is published by Z-Man Games, and we are now getting into that whole worker placement world again, and in Lowlands, we're back to farming. So you're farming, gathering, spending resources, and basically trying to make your farmyard into a beautiful place that will allow you to profit and breed sheep. My type of game. This is Lowlands.
I love the cover of Lowlands where it's this kind of pastoral scene, and then right up front on the right-hand side, there's this massive sheep just staring you down.
So I'm like, wow, that saved it for me right there. Because I was like, okay, yeah, it looks like all the generics, all the others. I'm like, yeah, the sheep right there. I need to see this. And it is on the heavier end of the spectrum, so I'm excited.
I like it.
You played it.
It's a good game.
How did you?
It was at Dice Tower Con and a hot games table.
Oh, I totally missed it. Ugh, it was busy, but okay, I had no idea. Can't keep these things secret.
You were busy playing other games. You were not busy. Come on now.
That's fair.
Well, Mandi took a page out of Tom's playbook.
I didn't know about this italic thing, okay? I'm sorry.
She covered off on my number 2 already. Very well done, Mandi, actually. So I don't have a ton to add because my number 2 Yeah, you had to kind of assume it was going to hit my list.
I actually did.
And that is Railroad Inc. This is the new duo of roll and write games coming out from Horrible and CMON Games, right? Or am I getting the original publisher?
No, it says Horrible and CMON Limited.
Yep. And everything you said about it is true. It sounds really puzzly. It sounds like it's one of those ones that it plays as many players as you have boards for, which is a feature of a lot of roll and write games that I really like. And then another kind of eye-catching thing that I think is maybe one of the few things you didn't mention, Mandy, is that it's from the designers of Dragon Castle and Potion Explosion.
That is correct.
So I think that design pedigree, along with just the form factor and the publishers, I'm rushing the booth to get my hands on Railroad Inc., my number 2.
I just got the pun. Because it's Railroad Inc., I-N-K, but it's about a railroad company, like Incorporated, which would be I-N-C, but it's I-N-K.
I purposely glossed over that because I know Suzanne would not like me if I brought that up.
It's funny. Okay.
And finally, number 1.
My number 1 is top of the list because it's going to be, at least I believe it will be, a perfect fit for me and my kids, and that's Spy Club. This is from Renegade Games. It's about a group of kids who are cooperatively assembling clues to solve a mystery. But the game evolves as you play. There's a whole stack of cards, and the scenarios change. And in the first scenario, you're manipulating the cards in one way, but you may have to do it a totally different way as scenarios increase. I'm psyched about this. I've heard good things from people who have played it already, and I will be rushing to the booth to get a copy of Spy Club, my number 1.
Let's look like a good one, and I'm certainly interested in it. My number 1 was easily my number 1, period. I read the book series because I heard about this Kickstarter, and now I love the book series. Oh. Yeah, because the game is The Reckoners. And it's from Nauvoo Games, and I like their stuff. I think they make good games. And I saw them this on Kickstarter, and they were saying, we love this books. They're by Brandon Sanderson. I was like, oh, okay, I'll go read the books. Oh, my goodness, they're so good. I love those books. It's about a bunch of – basically, it's in an alternate timeline or whatever, and an event happens that causes a whole bunch of people to get powers. They're called epics. They're like super people. But – they also all turn homicidal and awful and evil. So the Reckoners are a group of good guys who go out and assassinate these people. They have to figure out their weakness. For example, if it was Superman, they have to figure out that it was kryptonite and then take them out. And that's what you are in this game. It's a co-op game, and you're working together to figure out the weaknesses of these guys and take them out. Oh, man, I'm so pumped about this. This was also on Suzanne's list.
Yep. And I'd read the books long before the game ever came out, and I'm a fan of the books as well. And I'm usually somewhat leery, perhaps unfairly so, of IP-based games. But then I realized that Nauvoo Games was doing it, and then I got more excited because I really do like Nauvoo Games in general. Stockpile is one of my favorite games. So once you paired Nauvoo Games with a book series that I really like, I was totally fascinated. So that was The Reckoners was my number 5 for all those reasons.
Did you hear that, Tom? Suzanne liked the books before it was cool.
Oh my god!
That is what that sounded like too. She's like, "Well, I liked them first." I'm like, oh, okay, okay, you win.
You got me. I am so much cooler than you, Tom. That's my message for sure.
Well, that actually is probably true.
Anyway, Mandy, how about you?
Well, my number 1, it's kind of a cheat, but it's not really. So my number 1 is Brass Lancashire and Brass Brass Birmingham. So I put them together because there's the base game, which is Lancashire, and then the expansion, Birmingham. And this was on Kickstarter. I actually backed this, but I have not played the original. So, yeah, it just sounded really interesting because it's an economic strategy type game, which I find I'm really enjoying a lot more of those. And everyone's like, no, you have to try Brass. It's so great. So I was like, okay, I'm absolutely going to back it. And it's going to be there. I'm not sure if this one's available for purchase, but I know it definitely will be available to play. But in the game, you're developing, building, and establishing your industries and network and basically trying to capitalize on the demand for iron, coal, and cotton. So, talking about those sorts of things. And of course, there's always the big train on the game. But I have not played the original. I've heard great things about it. It's right up my alley in weight level and strategy. Very excited to try both Brass Lancashire and Brass Birmingham.
Is Birmingham its own standalone game, or is it an expansion that you have to have Lancashire to play?
I thought you had to have the base, but I could be incorrect. I thought it was just an expansion.
I thought it was like a...
I thought it was a...
But it could be a standalone.
Yeah, I thought so,
I bought
too.
them together. I was like, I might as well get them because, for us, it's Canadian company because it's Roxley Games doing it. So I was like, I got them both, but I'm going to verify.
The art design on the cover is gorgeous. It has such a lovely cover image. Brass is one I've enjoyed the original a good bit. When I don't own it, but when I have had a chance to play it, it's quite the crunchy, difficult adventure, but it's one I enjoy a lot. And I'm interested to see how Birmingham changes that system.
So it is a game sequel.
So on its own.
It's on its own. It does say it's a sequel. So I ended up buying them together because I hadn't played the original. But it is quite heavy. BGG's giving it about a 4 out of 5. So I'm interested to see how this plays out.
And my number one is a game called Newton. And again, it's interesting. The cover art is it's a red box with a green apple on it. And when you look a little closer at the apple, there's a bewigged gentleman kind of in the apple, so you realize that's probably Newton. And I was curious because I wasn't quite sure, and then you realize, oh wait, the cover's by Clemens Franz. The art's by Clemens Franz, who is, of course, a classic Euro artist in the industry who does just fabulous work. Well, Newton is being published by Cranio Creations, and it's from the designers behind games like Council of Four, Lorenzo Il Magnifico, and Grand Austria Hotel, which I think is a fabulous design pedigree right there. This is a hand management and deck building game. So as far as I can tell from the preview, there's no dice in this one. It's all card-based and deck building. And it's set in the 17th century, and it's all about competing scientists. You're trying to earn reputation as one of the great scientists, along with like Copernicus and Kepler and people like that. And I think that's... Galileo!
Galileo. Oh,
Did you say Galileo?
Galileo?
you shut up, all of you.
Oh, yes. Eric, did you ever read that treatise about the wonderful scientific contributions of Galileo?
It
was
Galileo Galileo? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Galileo. Very impressive work. I love the theme. I love that the idea of having scientists as the theme for a game. And I love the design team behind this. It sounds like it's got a really cool hand management thing where cards in your hand can be played for actions, and then you have to lose one, but then it gets stronger, and you're kind of creating this cycle of actions with your hand management. All of that sounds super exciting to me from this design team from Cranio Creations with Clemens Franz art. That is why Newton is my number one Gen Con anticipated game.
Not knowing anything about it, just based on the title, I thought it might have been a dexterity game in which you have to drop things and use the forces of gravity and physics to achieve objectives. But that's not what it is. So, this sounds great too.
It does, actually. But yeah, that's clever. From the name. All right.
All right, let's see what the listeners said. Number 10, they said MOA, which is interesting. It's a Martin Wallace game from Ape Games. I played it. I didn't think it was that great. I thought it was okay, but it felt very railroaded under strategies. Number 9, Brass Birmingham. Woo. All right. Number 8, Reef.
Yeah.
Which none of us put because we've already all played it, probably.
Yes.
Number 7, Paper Tales.
Ah, yes.
Great drafted game.
Like
Number 6, Founders of Gloomhaven. Number 5, Endeavor Age of Sail. a reprint of the older game Endeavor. Number 4, Detective, a modern crime board game from Portal Games. Number 3, Forbidden Sky. Number 2, Scythe, The Rise of Fenris, which is so amazing I can't hold it in.
Okay.
It's a 10 out of 10 expansion for me.
Really?
Wow.
It's really good.
Do you need all of the previous expansions to enjoy this one?
You do not.
Okay, then.
And I'll talk more about it in one of our future shows. And then number 1, by a mile, at least for now, Root.
Yeah, Root.
So, and I think Root will be one of the hottest selling games there. I think that will be one people will run for.
Yep.
So, I mean, I might be wrong, but I think that, that's my vote for that. And actually, the Scythe Rise of Fenris is there. I wouldn't be surprised just because of how popular Scythe is.
Yeah. Has Leader Games said how many copies they'll have? Is that one that's going to be limited supply?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't kept track of how many copies there are.
Yeah.
I think they're supposed to have a few. My friend actually works for the company, so she'll be there demoing the game. And I think they're supposed to have a decent amount.
Okay.
All right, so what do you think the Fantasy Flight announcement will be?
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
I mean, the standby has happened. That happened last year, the 4th edition announcement. So what's
Oh, yeah,
left?
that's true. Maybe they're going to bring back Descent, like 3rd edition. I'm going to call that like a new thing because there's so many other dungeon crawls now that are competing with them. They need something amazing.
Are the new X-Wing rule set models premiering at GenCon?
They're not scheduled to premiere there, but I would put a lot of money that you'll see.
I
them there.
bet they'll be there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they do Fallout?
They did Fallout already. They've announced an expansion
That's it,
for
the expansion. Okay, I wasn't sure if they had announced that yet.
But they've already announced it.
What about a card game to replace Android Netrunner?
Yeah, I don't know what that would be though. But yeah, it does seem like it would be time to announce a new living card game. But I don't
Would
know.
it be another Android game? Because they own that franchise. They just don't own the rights to the Netrunner system anymore.
You intrigue me, Samura. Well, you know what, though? That's pretty much it there, folks. We're going to let you guys go because we want you to come by and see us at GenCon. Say hello. We would love for you to come by our booth. And don't forget our show, our 2 o'clock show on Friday. And I think that's pretty much it. Tell us in our forums what games you're looking forward to. If you're not going to GenCon, Suzanne, what should people do if they can't go to GenCon?
They should check out GenCANT. This is something I've been running for almost 5 years now, and it's just a little online thing that we do for everybody who cannot attend Gen Con. We just want to bring some of the fun and excitement of Gen Con back to the people at home. We give away literally hundreds of games that are donated by publishers. We give away some of the newest, hottest, some of the games that are on this list will likely be given away as raffle prizes. We've got some fun online games for people to play, and this year we sponsored a game design contest in partnership with Button Shy Games, and we're going to be releasing a custom 18-card wallet-style game that GenCANT attendees can download, print, and play at home. It's just kind of a fun thing to do for the community because, you know, you're hearing us talk about Gen Con and all the fun things we get to do there. I get to go to my first one and experience it for the first time, but we all know that there's far more of you that cannot attend, even though you'd love to. And we just wanted to bring a little something to all of you who cannot go. So you can check out GenCANT.com, or on Twitter, there's a Twitter handle at GenCANT where a lot of the activity happens. Check it out. Everything's free. It's just for fun. So jump on in there.
So what are you most excited about, Suzanne? I mean, this is your first attendance at Gen Con. What have you heard about that you're most excited about experiencing for real?
I'm most excited to see you, Tom, and Mandi in person.
Aw,
Lies.
thanks.
Lies.
Oh, wait, yeah, that's probably
Yeah, they say that, then they shoot the gun for like the opening of Gen Con, and she's off.
Exactly.
Gotta go bite.
That's right. I'm sharpening you on my elbows right now.
Alrighty, folks. Well, that is actually it. We hope to see you there. We hope you have a great time. And we'll be back in 2 weeks. Well, when I say we, I mean two of us. Mandi and Suzanne will be back not in 2 weeks. I'm sorry, next week. So we'll see you guys then. Until then, man, I'm really all mixed up.
That was the most confusing exit I've ever...
Blah, 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 blah. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
I'm Mandi Hutchinson.
And I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been listening to semi-coherent Dice Tower.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This episode, number 565, was recorded on July 18th, 2018. Mandi and Suzanne join you next week, and in 2 weeks, the whole gang reassembles in Indianapolis for our GenCon live show. Support for this podcast comes from listeners like you. Thank you for spreading the word. And speaking of support, the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund is dedicated to providing support to members of the board gaming community in their hour of need. Find out more about the fund's mission and how you can help at jackvassell.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, Mandi, Suzanne, and Eric, with production assistance from Itai Perez, Derek Porter, and Rob Searing. Our theme is composed by Timothy Pinkham. Mr. Charles and Mr. Romano's Pro Milky Way platform provided by Rays for the Galaxy. And hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at CoolStuffInc.com. We love feedback. Visit the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com, email us at Dicetower@gmail.com, or follow us on Facebook. And of course, you can find more from the Dice Tower Network, including Board Gamers Anonymous, Board Game Corner, The Snakes Cast, Rolling Dice and Taking Names, The Geek All-Stars, The Dukes of Dice, Our Turn, and Board Game Breakfast at DicetowerNetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming. You know, I was surprised at how much singing there was in this episode.
I couldn't help myself.
This was more musical than I expected.
Galileo.
This is
What?
Galileo. Galileo Galileo.
Who cares?
It's like a classic American. Oh,
Tom, you're not going to live it down. Just roll with it. Roll with it.
No, I don't even care. Bring it.
All we learned is that Suzanne has stated she's cooler than Tom. That's...
Oh, dang.
That's not
that
going to
is
come
true.
back and bite me.